Your ears do not deceive you. You have just entered the Cryptid Creator Corner, brought to you by your friends at Comic Book Yeti. So without further ado, let's get on to the interview.
Do you love sci-fi? Are you a horror fan? Maybe you prefer action or fantasy. 2000 AD has it all and should be on your radar. With a whole universe of characters from Judge Dredd and Strontium Dog to Rogue Trooper, Shakara Halo Jones, and many more, every weekly issue you get 5 action-packed thrills from incredible creators such as Garth Ennis, Rob Williams, Alex DeCampi, Dan Abnett, and so many others. Get a print subscription and it'll arrive to your door every week. And your first issue is free, or subscribe digitally. Get free back issues and download DRM-free copies of every issue for just $9 a month. That's 128 pages of incredible comics every month for less than $10. That's like a whole graphic novel's worth. All subscribers get amazing offers like discount vouchers and exclusive product offers. Head to 2000ad.com and click on subscribe now, or download the 2000AD app. And why wait? Start reading today. I'll put links in the show notes for you.
Hello and welcome to Comic Book Yeti's Cryptid Creator Corner. I am one of your hosts, Jimmy Gasparo, and I have 2 very special guests today. We're going to be doing something a little different where I had a bit of a scheduling snafu, and both of these guests agreed that they would come on together to talk about their disparate projects. And I think there's going to probably be more common ground than I at first thought. But please, welcome to the podcast. J.M. Brandt is here and going to be talking about his Kickstarter for Horror Not Hate, an anthology. And it sounds like there's some amazing creators involved, and they're raising money for some very excellent causes. And then also returning to the podcast, we have Don Cardenas, and Don is going to be talking about the trade, all 4 issues of Evie and the Helsings, which is a series that he's done with Steve Bryant. It's a series that I absolutely love, and I can't wait to talk more about that. But as you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening it within the first week it's out, you're going to be able to go to the show notes and hit those links, because both of the projects will be live on Kickstarter, and you'll be able to check them out and back them. But, you're going to get to hear what they're all about tonight. So JM, Don, thank you so much for coming on the podcast tonight.
Glad to be back. Yeah, thank you for having me.
As we record this, we're in that garbage time between Christmas and New Year's. Do any of you have like particular holiday traditions that you do?
I typically was never really a big holiday person in general, but then we had kids. And then something takes a part of you at that point. And then on top of that, so Halloween kind of became our big holiday, because the kids like dressing up, and I'm more down to be spooky than jolly and festive. But for Christmas time, for this, our family celebrates Christmas, and I kind of taken over the role that my mother had, and that was making the cookies, making the tamales, and making sure everybody gets them, who's around, and all that. So like this year was unfortunately, we lost my mother earlier this year, and so this was the first year that it was fully on me to like try to do something for a bunch of that stuff. And it was it was nice to do that. So that's kind of my tradition is making the stuff, and making sure everyone's fed and all that, and everything's taken care of. But aside from that, it's usually just these last few weeks of the year, just holding on to the seat of my pants while the kids are home from school and trying to survive until they get back.
Yeah, that part is rough.
Oh yeah, I bet. Well, I'm sorry to hear that your mom had passed earlier this year, Don. That's got to be pretty difficult in terms of taking on those holiday roles.
Yeah, and not to start the podcast off on a bummer note. It's but it's the reality situation. But yeah, this is it was a nice thing to have to work through and do stuff. I experienced what she always told me was like, when you're making the tamales, you're making so many, by the time you're done, you don't even want to eat them. Like everyone else eat them. I don't. And that's exactly what happened. I'm like, I don't even want to look at these things. Like, you guys eat them, I'm done. which is kind of crazy, because that's usually like I'm usually just like housing like 5 or 6 at a time.
Yeah, tamales are one of my like favorite foods. I've never said no. 2 to 1.
I mean, they're not that they're so small. It's like, you're, "Oh, okay, I'll take another one. Why not?" You know?
That's my kryptonite in terms of food, tamales and deviled eggs. I can't say no. I will house them.
I'll have to ship some to you next year. I'll have to figure that out.
Where there's a will, there's a way. JM, how about you? Are you big into the holidays?
Yeah, no, I love any excuse to celebrate a day and make it special above another day. I don't go in for that like talk like a pirate day, kind of the classics.
That's September 19th. September 19th, everybody. Talk like a pirate day.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should have picked a more National Hamburger Day. Do you have that one in your back pocket?
I don't know when that is.
Oh, I was hoping Jimmy would have that one ready too, just ready, locked, and loaded.
Oh, like lo and behold, I come across the one podcaster that has every single the national day memorized. Yeah, no, I fucking love the holidays. I was raised Jewish, so I'm in on the Hanukkah stuff, but I married into somebody that celebrates Christmas, and I took to that with gusto. So I'm big into the Christmas tree and buying a new ornament every year. Got a really cool one this year from a horror convention, and a friend of mine named Puppets with Teeth, which is really cool. Um, I do a ton of tamales, so yeah, like I put away like I don't know, 15 of them on Christmas. I lose track because I'm just like I'm drinking a ton too, right?
There's no point in counting them.
Exactly.
It's Christmas. You don't count.
Yeah, I inhale tamales, right. Yeah, that I polished off a handle of eggnog, so, yeah, I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you still I mean, do you celebrate both now, Hanukkah and Christmas, having married into a Christmas family?
Yeah, yeah, we do celebrate both. I probably don't celebrate Hanukkah as much as I used to, but I try and give my son, he's 10, I try and give him at least like half of the nights where we're doing the songs and lighting the candles and stuff. I'm just too ADHD on my own to remember to do it every night, and life moves a little too fast to dedicate yourself to it. I mean, unless you're a true believer. And I'm more about the tradition of it and the family get-togethers and the presents, really about the presents. So, it's fun though.
Yeah, no, I bet. That's awesome. We'll turn from our beginning this talking about the holidays to comics, which is I guess what folks listen to. They want to hear about the comics. But Don, I wanted to start with you because you now have to trade for Evie and the Helsings. You were kind enough to send over the 4 issues, which I think I'd read at least the first 2 previously, but I really appreciate you doing that. I just I think I probably said it before when you were on, but I just love this series. I love the whole concept of it, of Evie and the Helsings, and you know, Evie kind of being descendant all the way back to Abraham von Helsing, and also doing the her rock band in LA. I just love the real mix of it. And so as you go into the trade, looking back over all of it, how do you feel about how it all came out, and is it exciting kind of like to see like, oh, we have all 4 issues. We got a little trade we're putting together. Like, what is that feeling like?
Going into the project, like I hadn't committed to like a multi-issue thing, since my first book, Pax of the Low Country, which was ended up being like, 6 issues that we collected on our own and all that. More like 7 because the last one was like double size. But anyway, um, so I was excited because Steve and I had been looking to work together on something for a long time. I've known Steve since I think 2009, maybe 2010. And since then, he just knew me as a guy who's like getting back into drawing and interested in comics and stuff. And but over time we became friends, and then it just became a thing we wanted to work together on. And after a false start here and there with some things, he finally just like literally just like called me one day. He's like, "Hey Don, are you working on anything that's like your thing right now?" I'm like, "No, not right now." And he's like, well, I have a really dumb idea. And I'm like, you got me. What is it? You know, like, and, he's like, so he basically said, he pitched me E.B. Van Helsing's, which is the story of E.B. Van Helsing, the last of the Van Helsings, who, instead of wanting being vampire hunter number one, she just wants to rock, man. And the first volume is her kind of getting the mantle, and then her having to deal with the fact that she can't ignore it. Because whether she wants to or not, the Van Helsings are, vampire enemy number one. So, it's kind of her realizing she can't escape her destiny, but she's gonna have to figure out how to do both because she's not gonna give up the other one. She's not gonna give up the guitar.
I said this to you last time, but with your podcast, Comics, Coffee Metal, and with your musical knowledge as well, it seems like are kind of the perfect person for the artwork in this story. You have a great mix of action scenes, fighting, but there's a whole battle of the bands that goes on, and I think we talked about it before. You trying to get things just right. Um, is that like, feels good to do that, but is also that a bit of like a curse? Like, I wish I could just not care as much.
I don't wish I could not care as much. I wish that I could just make my decision more quicker on what everyone's doing. Um, because yeah, overly am overly harsh on myself in terms of like, if so it's a full band shot, I want to make sure they're all playing the same song, so that the notes where everyone's landing is going to be, close enough to where like, it would actually be within a song. And having written songs for the book, I kind of know like, okay, they could be playing this song, so they would be up here, and the bass player would be down here doing this, and then the drummer would be like, in between this beat doing this and all that. And there's been a few things since the first issue that I've been like, well, I'm being a little too precious with it because I'm like not making this shot the image look good enough. Like the shot wouldn't be good enough if that's exactly what they were doing, and no one's gonna know, no one's gonna care. I'm the one who's gonna care. And so I just focus more on now trying to keep my focus more on keeping the vibe right. Like, does this feel like this band's playing and jamming out and everyone's like doing that? I'm still gonna do my best to make sure, musically it looks correct. But that'll be second. I mean that's second to like, is the vibe right? Is the imagery right? Is the dynamicism right? Is it feel right? Because that's what's gonna matter. You know, no one like even when I'm looking at other artists who draw bands and musicians and stuff, I'm not nitpicking it. I don't care if that doesn't look like a Fender Telecaster, or if that doesn't look like, a Les Paul shape, it's a little wonky or whatever, or, they drew 5 strings instead of 6 or whatever. Like, I don't care. It looks cool, right? It's just me being hard on myself, and all that. So, obviously, I have lots of reference to check on, and make sure I'm doing everything right.
Oh yes, you record this. I see all the guitars behind you, but I was going to say, and then you just have dum dums like me reading it, and it's like I'm not going to know if they're holding the instrument wrong or if it doesn't look exactly. I just I just like that one scene where the guy kills a vampire with a cymbal. That's what I want. I want more of that.
The fourth issue has been kickstarted and been out for a while, so I don't want to spoil anything for everyone who hasn't like read it yet. But like that was literally like one of my favorite things to draw in the whole book. I don't know if I have them. I don't know where it was an email or text, but there's a bunch of excited back and forth between me and Steve about how to do that. What are we gonna do? And there's a panel where kind of like the aftermath of it, where it kind of slides off a little bit, where like I was just excitedly texting Steve like, I'm gonna draw it like this. Is that cool with you? He's like, oh yeah, dude, it's like that. So it's like, we're just a bunch of dorks, who just like, love, as much as we wear our hearts on our sleeves with some of the stuff in the book and stuff that's coming up with the book. We're also like, a little bit of gore hounds, like those look, how's this look cool? What's a cool way to do this? So yeah, that was so in terms of like the finishing the book and getting all that, it was very much both cathartic to like have something that I was so passionate about come out the way it did. That I was very happy with. It was nice to be able to see, look back and see my own personal growth as an artist throughout the book. And then on top of that, we've been lucky enough to be successful enough to where, I'm working on volume two now. And, and I'm really excited for volume two because, Steve came to me with the overall story for this one, and I had a lot of input on the characters. Originally, Edie was going to be a guy. It was really going to be like originally like Eddie Van Halen. I said, can we just make it like Evie? Or no, I said Edie. And he's like, how about Evie? I'm like, that's even better because it's to me, it's like that keeps the EVH thing for like Eddie Van Halen and also it kind of it reminded me of the Mummy from Brendan Fraser movie. The characters Evie in there too. So I'm like, oh, it kind of ties into the monster thing and all that. But again, that's just stupid nerd stuff that flows into your brain where you're thinking of things, right? And yeah, and all the character designs and stuff and basically who the characters are, I had a lot of input on. But this next time I had a lot of story input on. And it was really nice because Steve and I multiple times, I'll just info dump him on story ideas or whatever, and everything he has seems to be like dovetailing right into what I want to do. So, we're hoping to make many, many, many issues of this book as long as we possibly can for the rest of our lives, if possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you're working on the story aspects of it, are you focusing how well, let me put it this way. How much are you focusing on just the story itself, and how much are you trying to figure out, "Oh, like, I wanna tell this story because I wanna draw this?"
Well, this first volume, like Steve came with pretty much the story. Like there's like again small things that were there, but like the heart of the story was very much like I want to tell this. This is the heart of the story is someone who was told that this is what you're going to be, and she's like, no, this is what I want to be, and I'm going to go do this. But then that comes, and she has to face the fact that she can't escape that, but she's not going to give up. She's going to figure out how to do both, and just someone who's going to have to like I feel like I connected with the idea of someone who is aggressively putting more on their plate than they should, but because they're too stubborn to give up on the things they love to do, that they're gonna figure out how to do both. They're gonna have to figure it out. So there's that aspect of it that, I was really drawn to and focused on. But then as the characters develop, you just kind of fall in love with your characters, and as they grow and as a writer, I'm sure you both know as creators, like you once these characters are created and you've given them enough to be kind of alive in your brains, it doesn't feel like you're writing them anymore. It doesn't feel like you're thinking of things for them. It's like you're discovering things about them. Like, oh no, wait, this is why they do this. Oh, this is why they do this. And so that's been a lot of the fun with me and Steve because he lets me just kind of like dump canon on him. And Steve is the writer of the book, so because he respects the fact I'm the artist of the book, so we try to keep that line like, okay, I get to say in the art decisions, he gets to say in the writing decisions, unless we both really want to fight about it. But most of the time, it's just like he's been really open to me, just like pouring out ideas for things as I'm going through, as I'm drawing. So as I'm drawing, there's been a couple instances where I'm drawing one of the characters and like I draw one of their expressions and I'm like, wait a second. And like it just unlocks like an idea of like, oh, this is why they would be cooler with this than they wouldn't than this other person wouldn't be, or this things that just build up with there. And so I don't know if I'm answering your question effectively, but like, so when I am working on the book, I'm always thinking about the story because I know what's coming next, but it's not done yet. So it's like, well, what can I do to like, what can I do now that will inform the story even more layered to pay off for people who are reading now? And that's something, probably from me growing up on the X-Men, Chris Claremont X-Men, you had those long seated things that, you just want to have a one page throwaway of something. And then, 2 years later, it pops up as something more important than it was or whatever. So.
No, yeah. Well, JM, to turn to you, and we're staying in the horror realm, but I mean, I do not envy anyone and attempting to take on what it is you are taking on, but I'm so impressed whenever someone can pull off something like this. The anthology is horror not hate, and I want to tell the listeners about it. But like, I have looked through, I think it was the article on the Beat, Comics Beat, but so many creators, so many unbelievable artists involved in this. So why don't you tell listeners, what is Horror Not Hate all about? And then I have to hear how you went about trying to get like everybody involved that you did for this project.
Yeah, it's over 100 people that I'm dealing with on this. Um, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Um, Horror Not Hate, just like the bare bones of it is, it started out as a horror comic anthology where basically I wanted to raise money for immigrant rights and LGBTQIA rights, because you know, those communities always need help and our support, but especially now with the political climate the way that it is, it was extra important for me. You know, a native Angelino, so having ice in my backyard and, you know, having my community impacted by it, and just seeing it all around the country, and the sentiment of so many people, it just caused me to want to do something. And so before I even really thought things through, my wife had had enough of me complaining about the news every single day and told me to get off my ass and do something. And before thinking things through, I just on Instagram posted, "Hey, I'm going to do this massive project, and anybody who wants to help out because they're scared or afraid or angry with the way things are going, hit me up." And that was like the genesis of it. Just like a 2 feet first Instagram post. And as time went on, I sort of like, you know, was working on just recruiting people that were mutuals online, people that I knew in person, and trying to get through that way. And it became this weird seesaw where I would at one point have too many artists for not enough writers. And then I'd go on a writer recruiting spree, and then I'd have too many writers and not enough artists. And soon enough, it just ballooned. So now we have 200 pages of stories in the book, and there isn't a story that's over 11 pages. So it's you know, it's pretty girthy. Just on the story side, but you know, I wanted to do, because this is my first book that I'm putting together by myself. I wanted to do like a pinup gallery because I always like it in comics that I read and trades that I read. The response was so awesome, and not just artists I knew, artists that I admired and followed for years, and just hit up randomly on Instagram and was like, "Hey, do you want to donate your time, energy, and, you know, work to this project?" And you know, I said, "I'm not going to keep a dime, um, you know, and I'm going to put everything together, so I'm going to be doing 10 times more work than you. So I think that maybe you could do this too." That went unspoken, right? Like, I'm not guilt tripping anybody. But they just all jumped on board, and these are people that don't even know me, and it's not like I have 50,000 followers on Instagram. It's not like I have the craziest backlog of repertoire of books, you know, that I've had published. So I'm a relative nobody, but I guess my passion for the project came through. And the response from the artist was so much that basically I was like, well, this isn't even an anthology anymore. This is also an art. So there's over 50 different illustrations, pinup pieces in the book also. And, you know, it's sort of follows all of my loves. So it's not just comic people, it's horror art people, it's metal art people, it's outsider art and lowbrow art, because I'm a big fan of lowbrow, if you guys are familiar with it. So it's just like this big stew of everything that I love, all thrown together. The stories are all socially conscious horror, so it's horror based around hate, fascism, transphobia, homophobia, xenophobia, racism, or toxic patriotism. Yeah, it's a beast, and putting it together has been a little difficult.
Wow. Was there a brief in terms of like the maybe not like the writers or and the stories themselves, or was it just these are the topics I want to cover? Like, how did you like let folks know what it was you were interested in, like in terms of the editorial aspect of it?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I let people pitch, but after letting them know that that's what the stories would be based around, because I figure it would be too loosey goosey if there wasn't some sort of thematic component to it. I do like, there to be sort of a through line with the stories. And then I gave them a page limit. I said between 4 and 10 pages. Only one person tried stretching that, and that was a Bram Stoker Award winner and a Shirley Jackson Award winner in his second comic ever. That's Tim Wagner. And he just wanted one extra page. So I was like, yeah, I think we can do that for you.
Think we could find something to move around.
Yeah, yeah. Let me think. No, no, I'm not gonna have you in it, of course. So yeah, I just figured between 4 and 10 pages is really good for a short comic in an anthology. You don't want to overstay your welcome, and really, you can get the right amount of depth if you're a good writer, in that amount of pages. And I love anthologies. I've always wanted to be a part of a ton of them. Even with horror movies, I love anthology movies. So just the idea of doing this and having everybody approach these themes in their own way has been awesome. And then there's this really, I'm going to call it quasi accidental alchemy that came about with the stories, because no writer came in with an artist in mind save two of them. And no colorist was attached to any of the stories. And no letterer was attached to any of the stories. So here I am trying to just look at a different art, like different artists and their styles, and match them up to the script that gets thrown to me by this writer, and seeing like which is going to suit the tone. And it was a limited pool to sort of select from, so there's some unconventional choices for sure. And I think for the most part, it came out really, really good, like way better than anticipated. I was worried about some duds in there. And, we have some people that are fresh faced and that maybe don't have their chops just yet, but it's all good art and it's all good writing. And I'm really excited for people to see the entirety of it. It was important to me to have up and comers as well as established people. So, I wanted to give a chance to people.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm a big fan of anthologies too. I mean, I love anthologies. I feel like you do get such a mix of like differing talents. And I do like seeing different writers and artists paired up. I usually always discover something new, no matter what anthology I picked up, like somebody I hadn't heard of before, or an artist that's like right on the verge of becoming somebody who all of a sudden appears everywhere, and also I think you get so many different perspectives. I mean, we cover indie comics, but I do read big two, well, DC. I don't really read too much Marvel. Nothing against Marvel. It's just I feel like a lot of times the type of writer that you're going to get and the type of story, even when they try and like mix it up. And I mean all the news cycle right now is how in 2025 the absolute line for DC has been crushing, and like that's great, but I look like a lot of those writers, and when people who don't look like me write and do art, I discover like amazing, like wonderful things. And like that's what I want. I want to be exposed to, to all of that stuff. I want to read about somebody else's, perspective. Stories, whether or not it's a movie or TV or comic books, I still think are the best way, or one of the best ways to really show and teach other people empathy, to try and really feel what it's like to be in somebody else's shoes, to really see things from somebody else's, perspective. So I'm a huge fan of anthologies, and like some of the creators, ones I've heard of and ones I haven't. I'm so excited to see what everybody has done here. But yeah, I was going through it, and there's some very familiar names in terms of this. I was wanting just a couple of them who have either been on the podcast or who I know. But David M. Boer's in this, Rich Dueck, Jonathan Hedrick, Joe Corallo, Frankie White, Lan Pitts, Ben Kahn, Travis B. Hill, Lewis Southard, yeah, Moni Barrett. Yeah, there's like I mean, that those are just some of the writers. I didn't go through everybody, but Gerald von Stoddard in terms of the artist, Kurt Belcher. Yeah, it's just unreal. The individuals that you have involved and that the folks that wanted to, you know, contribute something to this. And I'm very excited by the idea that there's going to be pinups in this that, it'll kind of also act as like an art book and from all over like that, that's exciting. I saw Don perk up a little bit when you said metal people.
It's my dog whistle. It's like, oh, what squirrel, squirrel.
Oh yeah, no. We have a lot in common.
I see the dinosaur junior sir. I know you like some fuzz. Or well, personally hearing it from as an artist who was, and some might say still not ready, or not don't have the chops yet. Anthologies like were huge for me. Even doing a couple of pages and all that, and and getting in and getting my art better and having those opportunities to be part of things like that, much less, it was incredibly helpful, much less being part of one that has such a great message. You know, I live north of Chicago. ICE was stationed, right next to my town. We had, you know, uh, people watching out because the schools and all that. There's lots of heavy things happening with all of that, and so I'm right there with like just how this is affecting communities, affecting people, and it's terrible. So I'm glad that there's that there's comics that are there that are and that are going to be letting people get their voices heard about how they're feeling about this, because and on top of it, like you mentioned that you were kind of surprised that all these artists were like, yeah, sure, I'll donate my time, all these big artists. And I can only speak from my perspective, and it's like when there's something cool like that, it doesn't matter like how busy you are, where you're at. It's like, as an artist, you're like, you connect with that because I'm sure those artists have a connection to what's happening right now. And you're like, this is how I express myself. So this is an outlet for me to do that. So that's why I'm not surprised and very happy that a lot of them reached out to you. Were like, yes, I'm in. Let me do this. Let me contribute in some way. Because on top of that, many of us cannot contribute to these causes in a strict monetary value, but we can do it with our time and our love and our passion. And if that translates into that, on top of it, creating more of an awareness to anyone who may not have some of the information or some of the experiences that these people are having, then even better. So I can't wait to read the book. I'm excited to read it. I love anthologies, big old thick anthologies, something. And even if it's you're coming off one story where maybe one art team is more polished than the other, I mean, as long as the story and the passion is there, like no one cares. It's like music, no one cares if the recording's not as pristine as the previous band's recording. Like if the song's there, man, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I like mayhem and I like wolves in the throne room. So yeah, I like the lo-fi and the hi-fi.
I got to listen to more music so I know exactly what you two are talking about.
Okay. Yeah, no, just black metal mayhem is like one of the originators, and it's very lo-fi. It's very scratchy sounding, to the point that it gets mimicked a lot. And then Wolves in the Throne Room is this like lush, atmospheric, like 30 different instruments and songs.
Pristinely mixed,
Yes. Yeah, very polished.
and there's beauty. There's beauty in both.
There is. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Y'all, Jimmy, the Chaos Goblin, strikes again. I should have known better than to mention I was working on my DC Universe meets Ravenloft hybrid D&D campaign on social media. My bad. He goes and tags a bunch of comics creators we know, and now I have to get it in gear and whip this campaign into shape so we can start playing. Another friend chimes in, "Are you going to make maps?" It's fair to say it's been a while since I put something together, so I guess? Question mark? It was then that I discovered ARKENFORGE. If you don't know who ARKENFORGE is, they have everything you need to make your TTRPG more fun and immersive, allowing you to build, play, and export animated maps, including in-person fog of war capability that lets your players interact with maps as the adventure unfolds while you, the DM, get the full picture. Now I'm set to easily build high-res animated maps, saving myself precious time and significantly adding nuance to our campaign. That's a win every day in my book. Check them out at ARKENFORGE.com and use the discount code YETI5 to get $5 off. I'll drop a link in the show notes for you. And big thanks to ARKENFORGE for partnering with our show. I think I'm going to make Jimmy play a Goblin Warlock just to get even. Welcome back.
The marketing of stuff is like doing that now to try and get on other people's podcasts for my all ages graphic novel that's coming out in April. And it's like, having to reach out to people like, can I come on your podcast? Or YouTube show, or I don't know, TikTok, whatever it might be. Yeah, it's a lot, JM.
It's a grind. Yeah.
I don't know if y'all are experiencing this, but it feels like, at least in the past couple of years, it feels like it's become a lot more difficult to like find other podcasts to try to like go on to and speak to, because and it might just be the ecosystem I'm involved in or what I'm able to pull up and search, but like a lot of the ones that I hear about most are ones that are mainly talking to bigger creators or having bigger type, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. It's not a judgment thing on my end by any means. It's just like, okay, you know, it just felt like, you could find more other distinct pockets of other podcasts to like jump onto and talk to people about stuff. But having run a podcast myself for a few years, I know how hard it is to maintain that schedule and do it. I take breaks often just because it's tough. It's tough. But you guys mentioned the marketing of things, and like I literally have data that shows this, like how terrible, how bad social marketing, social media marketing has gotten over the past couple of years for this type of stuff. Because when we did the first Evie and the Helsing's campaign, this was before shit had bought Twitter, and then like it was huge for us. It was Joseph, and then by later that year, when I think he had just bought or whatever, it was abysmal. And then the last campaign, we didn't even bother. I think we had both deleted our accounts at that point. And Blue Sky isn't really. I love Blue Sky in the social sense, but in the marketing sense, it's just
It's not there yet.
it's 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 literally putting you're kind of like shouting out into the world and hoping someone's driving by and listening. But if not, but not, and there's other aspects like Instagram or Threads or things like that. It's just like, yeah, it's so exhausting to do this stuff. But you're trying to find that way. But I literally see the data from the Kickstarter. It's like, okay, we got nothing from anybody else. And then most of it just came from Kickstarter itself, and then people who ran part of the previous campaigns. So, that's, I'm hoping a tide's turning, maybe. So maybe things are getting a little more going, because it's there seems to be some sort of like push towards like discords and people like kind of going back to that old school forum situation and then getting involved with those. But that becomes so overwhelming in its own, because we have 15 different discords, with basically a lot of the same people all joining up, all great people. But it's just like, you end up like finding that extra reach has been so difficult. And I don't know if either of you have experienced any kind of breakthroughs of like avenues to try to figure out with any of that. But yeah, that's been the struggle lately.
Yeah, no, actually, I do have a tip. Work with 100 people, and like 30 will actually promote it with you. And then It really helps when you have artists like Skinner, who has what, like 200,000 followers posting about it, or Ghost Ship with 50,000 followers, or Mozzatli with 300,000 followers. The numbers stack up pretty quick. It's still been a struggle. Like, marketing is always a struggle, and just allocating the time and resources when you're trying to edit the stories and make sure that everybody's on deadline and collecting the resources and everything else. It's tough to find the time to do the marketing, but for any budding comic creatives out there, it's probably, like, I don't want to say it's more important than the creative work, because without that you don't have a soul. But it's just as important as the creative work, as long as unless you're doing it for yourself, which you should always be doing that anyways. But you also want other people to read it, and so that becomes really important. And like you were saying, Don, social media marketing has become much more difficult in a lot of ways. The algorithms are squeezing people out, and I don't know if it's paying to get verified is the magic bullet, and I just haven't tried it yet. But it's like Blue Sky is very pure, and it's nice that there's no algorithm like choosing what you see. It's just based on when you're there. But that becomes shouting into the void, because if you don't hit it at exactly the right second when those people are exactly looking at their feed, they're not going to see it.
Yeah. And if you don't hit that right person in your feed who's going to retweet it, who hits the right person in their feed who's going to retweet it, and then yeah, it's is um on that I will say, like, there is, if there's any creators really listening that are hesitant about marketing, there's always that fear of, like, I don't want to annoy people. I have literally had to rush to back a friend's Kickstarter because I didn't know it was so close to the deadline because of just the way social media is. Like, you're not bothering anybody if you post about your campaign 3, 4, 5 times a day. When I see people, if I even notice anybody doing that, if anything, that's a reminder to me to, like, oh yeah, might be my ADHD talking, but it's like, oh yeah, I better go do this. I've just seen it pop up for the fourth time. It's never, it's like, I'd rather see that than, people, someone complaining about something. I'd rather see, like, hey, here's my thing, we'll check it out. Than, I didn't understand why this person did that. This movie character did this because I didn't watch the movie. Anyway, so, like, yeah, so don't feel bad about marketing yourself. And you're right, like, first do the work for yourself, because otherwise, why bother? You know? Um, Speaking in indie, more of an indie comic sense, because obviously there's, comics is a business. It is a commercial art business. We don't always draw the things we want to draw all the time, but if you're not doing it for yourself or passionate about the project, then it's going to show through everything. But then you kind of have to, like, it sucks we have to do this, but you have to redirect some of that passion and energy to marketing it and getting it out there. Or if you don't want to do that, you need to center yourself with the idea that, okay, it's probably not going to go as far as I want it to go with people, unless I'm really lucky. But that's just kind of where things are right now. And it's the best of times to make comics, is the worst of times to make comics. It's so easy to get something out there, and it's so hard to get people to read it. Um, but it's not to sound discouraging. It's just like one of those extra little things you can think of that you have to think of and do, and all that. But hopefully, we all kind of find a way to reach that extra person, reach that extra thing to kind of push things over that. And having 100 people seems like it would help. It also sounds like an absolute nightmare. So, the benefit way versus the sheer insanity of managing all that people, I'm sure, are weighing each other out. And it's not good, and as awesome as I'm sure it will be to have these people promoting the book. I know I run Kickstarters, everyone's run Kickstarters. It's a slog no matter what. Even if you're fund within the first day, it's still a slog, man. Like you're still just watching that thing and trying to make sure you're doing the best you can for it and all that. So yeah.
But we're just a bunch of comic book nerds who wouldn't want it any other way. JM, I wanted to ask you in particular, and well, before I do that, I do want to say, like, yeah, I agree with everything that JM and Don have said. Like, you have to be your own self advocate. Like, you have to get out there and do that. You can't be worried about annoying people. But I would also say the one thing I would say to keep in mind is like reciprocity. You, you be a cheerleader for other people too. Like share their stuff. Talk about the things that, you love on social media. Somebody like just sends you a message you've never heard from before and, hasn't done anything in terms of like sharing your stuff. I mean, I don't mind that as much. People reach out to me all the time about, "Oh, can I come on the podcast?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll talk to anybody." Like that doesn't bother me. You gotta ask. I would agree with everything that JM and Don said about the slog that is Kickstarter and the pain that is marketing, but it is necessary. But I wanted to get back to talk a little bit about horror, not hate, and JM because I'm familiar with Swamp Dogs, and I wanted to know what if you can tease like a little bit in terms of what your story is about because I'm sure you wrote something for horror, not hate. Can you clue us in a little bit?
Yeah. Okay, so I will say I will say that it is a Holocaust revenge story, and it's supernatural in terms, and there's no dialogue in it. This is something that I actually like teased about in the Kickstarter updates. Or no, actually, sorry, my Substack. I just recently posted, and I said that every single time I try and write something, I want to create an extra challenge for myself. And I guess coordinating this whole book wasn't a challenge enough for me. So, um, so what I did was I wanted to see if I could do a dialogue-free story in 10 or less pages, and have it be really powerful emotionally. And so what I did was, thanks to my publisher at Dead Sky Publishing, who did my splatter western one shot. He's a big World War II buff, and I asked him if he knew of any poems written inside of a concentration camp. And while he didn't know one, he knew some resources to point me to. And so I wrote this story where the only words are this poem that was actually written inside of a concentration camp. Yeah, my grandparents are survivors of the Holocaust. And so when it comes to fascism and hate and stuff, um, all of this is hitting me extra hard because I see people being put into camps and deported and, stripped from their families and all that good stuff. So it would be really disingenuous for me to do anything else. I think I just equaled your heavy, Don. Like not to have a pissing contest, but
We're gonna make people feel sad in this podcast.
yeah.
Go buy
Oh
our
no,
books.
but you know what? It's gonna feel so good too. It's
Yeah.
all these stories are exercises in catharsis,
Yeah.
and
That's if
the
comics and
revenge
metal are
component
nothing
helps.
for me, it's catharsis. So, it's um, you know, that's also I always love it hearing when, writers have a essentially wordless story. Not because I'm a, you know, egotistical artist. I'm like, haha, it's all me. No, it shows like such to me, it shows such a maturity and a trust and a letting go of ego in terms of like, I'm not gonna have dialogue words here. I'm gonna trust my ability to write this story that my artist will interpret and draw, and it'll be what I want. It'll fully be what it is. And I think that's, you know, ironically, I feel like that's like one of the epitome of like collaboration in comics, where there's just such that level of trust between everybody. And, I can't speak for your artist, but if I were in those shoes, I would be like, it would be less like, ha, I get to, it's all me. It'd be like, oh shit, it's all me in terms of like, I
Mhm.
got to make sure this is done right. So it adds that extra level of just like the good kind of pressure where you're like, I gotta nail this. I gotta run this through the brain grinder an extra couple times just to make sure I've nailed this expression, I've nailed this pose, I've nailed this thing here, and all that. So that's awesome. I can't wait to see that.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, it was really interesting to see it translated by my artist. It's our first time working together, even though we've been mutuals for a long time. I'm not even gonna you know what? I'm gonna try and pronounce his name. He did correct me or like told me the correct pronunciation, but I'm also working on like 2 hours sleep and putting this Kickstarter together, so it's not at the forefront of my mind. But UC Pironin. And I'm sorry, UC, or if I'm saying it wrong. He, as far as American comics go, his only other work that I'm aware of is a graphic novel adaptation of a Joe Lansdale story.
Oh,
Like one of the Happen Leonard stories. So, he was really on my same wavelength. With maybe like the only thing I can think of where I just went with it was uh, I created a supernatural creature that doesn't exist yet, or it doesn't
mhm.
exist in fiction, as far as I'm aware. And my vision of how it looked and his vision of how it looked were a little different, but it's still very impactful and very cool. So yeah, I
Cool.
can't wait for people to see it.
Awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. I can't wait for this. Like I said, I love anthologies. I love that you're the causes you're supporting for immigrant rights for the LGBTQIA community. Yeah, and you've put out in terms of where the money's going to go in terms of the two charities, and if anybody wants to, there that you can go and like check charities now to see like how much of the money is actually going to the causes. JM has picked two excellent charities that do a ton of great work. And yeah, the sheer number of people involved, and it really is like a Herculean effort to do something like this, JM. So I like hats off here. Wearing a hats off to you.
That's a
Um,
wig. Yeah.
and yeah, I'm very excited for it. And so listeners, you'll be able to go and there'll be a link in the show notes and I'll have links to JM's like social media and stuff. But yeah, you can go and check it out. I think Horror Not Hate, like there's been plenty of said and written about, the catharsis or dealing with difficult topics or challenging topics like through horror. I just think this is a wonderful project. So I
Oh, thank you.
I can't I can't wait for it. And Don, to kind of turn things back to you with Evie and the Helsings. I can't say enough good things about this. It is such a fun story, but I just I have a great time with it. I like absolutely love it. All 4 issues. I also love the back matter that was in each issue. Is that going to be collected in the trade? Because I love
Yes.
seeing those
Yes.
character designs. I love seeing this how the script comes together. And
All that stuff will be in there. And I believe I don't want to speak too much out of turn because Steve and I have talked about this a billion times, and I may forget some details. But definitely the back matter will be there. I think I was really trying to push for even more, but Steve's like, we like this can't be like an $80 book, Don. We can't put that many pages in there, because I'm a back matter hound. That's why I get collections, because I want that part of it. I want that extra stuff. Um, I still come from the era of the DVD commentary or the behind the scenes specials on cable or whatever about stuff, and just learning about all these things. So yes, we'll have the back matter in there. I believe we'll also have um images of all the different variant covers we've had. We've a ton of great variant covers. My favorite being the Archie variant we had, which uh I absolutely adore. But yeah, tons of that kind of stuff in there. And then for the campaign itself, I'm actually really excited because I actually went and did something really dumb and cool at the same time. I took one of my guitars and I painted it, put some blood
it
splatter
is
on it,
yeah.
got it a little battle damaged with some claw marks and stuff
What
like that.
color is that?
This is like a nice hot pink. This is like the
Okay.
Eevee guitar. I didn't have, I usually draw her with flying V's, but I didn't have a flying V to sacrifice for the for the campaign. But I did have this Jackson dinky that actually, fun story, was sold to me by Mike Norton. So,
Oh, hey.
comic
Mike.
creators, awesome dudes, Mike Norton. But this was actually going to be a tier on the campaign. It's going to be part of like a mega package thing, because I've had this guitar for a few years. I've written some of the Eevee songs on this guitar. I love this guitar, but I've since acquired something that does the same thing this one does. And I'm like, well, what do I do with this? And then here we go. So if you want a battle damage, custom painted, pink blood splatter guitar, you'll know where to find one.
That's awesome. I love that.
That was, it was a lot of fun throwing the blood spatter paint on there. It was a nice time.
What are you doing with the songs, like the Eevee and the Helsing songs?
Well, right now, I actually I still have to finish the fourth one. Unfortunately, the end of the fourth campaign coincided with a lot of the family stuff that was happening. So I haven't fully finished it yet, but these are all been instrumental songs. The original plan was to hire a female rock singer to then, sing the lyrics I wrote for them and all that. But in the interim time from when we had the idea to when we were ready to start executing it, the people we had in mind, justifiably so, got a lot more expensive to hire. And obviously, and there's no way in hell I would like do an AI rock female voice thing to save money on this. That's just dumb. Fuck AI, all that stuff. But so I'm still wanting to do that eventually. But they are instrumental songs. And then for the next volume, we have some other characters coming in with different kinds of bands, and then I'll actually be able to do some of the vocals on it. So don't worry about that. But we got a good old doom fuzz metal band coming in for the next arc, and then so I get to play around with that. But for those songs in particular, they will be part of the campaign. They were stretch goals that we hit for all 4 issues, but so it will be kind of just like a standard giveaway now for any of the digital rewards that we have. But the goal is still to get someone to sing on, because I have lyrics written, I have melodies written. I just have to get the right person and find someone we can reasonably afford to have, do what they got to do over that. So, but
that's awesome.
I'm excited. It'll happen eventually. But yeah.
So. I would just, that's like incredible to combine, those couple of things. To have written songs for the comic and eventually, not just the instrumental ones, but have somebody sing on them. JM, did you write your own songs for Horror Not Hate?
No, I do really love the idea of soundtracks accompanying comics, though. I'm a huge sucker for it. When I write anything, I create a soundtrack for my writing first, that, like picks up the mood, and I usually try and share that with my readers, like, oh, here's my playlist. I do have an interesting music tie-in, though, on top of the metal people, for Horror Not Hate. I got really high at a show by this guy named John Mouse while I was putting the show together. He's this iconic cult figure, like, I guess you'd call him like electronic pop, like experimental pop. He's amazing, and he had a song called I Hate Antichrist. And something clicked in my head when I heard that song live, and I was like, well, this could be the theme for the book, because it's just, the lyrics are just, I hate the Antichrist, I hate that son of a bitch. And it's just over and over. And given that it was like published in 2025, I'm not going to say who I think it's about, but it definitely is about somebody to me. And so I hit him up just randomly, and he very graciously licensed that song to our campaign. So the theme
awesome.
for
I love that.
The theme for like all the videos and stuff is that. So I've never done music licensing before, but I had to go through those hoops too in order to get this done. So if anybody's a John Mouse fan out there, You know, our videos are free to listen to, and
Well, I'm gonna check that out as soon as we're done here because I
Yeah,
wanna
you
I
don't have
wanna
to
hear
say who
that.
it's about, but and so unfortunately, it could probably be about a handful of them.
yeah.
But we know
Oh,
the main one. We know
exactly,
the main one. We know
exactly.
the main one. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been of the mind like any book I do, I'm doing music for. I'm working on a book with Comic Book Yeti alumni, Grant Stoy,
Yeah.
and you know
Love Brandt.
I'm doing a John Carpenter-esque theme, probably EP by the time I'm done for our book.
That's really cool.
Because that's just fun stuff to just to mess around with. So I'm gonna keep yapping and keep Jimmy on here longer than he wants to be, out
It's
of just
fine.
pure torture. But no, I'll shut up
I
now.
can
Let Jimmy
hang.
let Jimmy wrap it up. I'll stop taking
I
over
can
the
hang.
podcast.
No, I look. We'll go as long as you want to go. You want to keep. We can talk about plenty of other stuff. Like I got a lot of topics. Well, I don't have a lot of topics. I have a few topics I can talk about a lot. So as long as we stay within that realm, metal, I'm not that good on. I'll listen to anything. I've tried recently to expand. I felt like I haven't listened to like new music in a while.
Mhm.
So I was trying to listen to some newer, not necessarily metal, but and somebody was just telling me about what was Geese. So I was
Okay.
listening to Geese.
Yeah,
I hadn't
Geese
heard
is
them
good.
yet. So I was listening to Geese earlier today because I hadn't heard them yet. So
You know what, Jimmy?
I was
Why don't
checking
you
that
check
out.
out why don't you check out Mammoth?
Mammoth.
Yes, the latest one from Mammoth. That's it's fronted by Eddie Van Halen's son, Wolfgang.
A Wolfgang. Okay.
Yeah, but it is just some really incredibly solid, just hard rock stuff with
All
great
right.
melodies, tons of shredding, some really heavy riffs, but it's not. I wouldn't call it metal just because of just enough there towards like it's hard rock, you know. So
Okay.
if metal is not your thing, I think Mammoth would be a great. Just don't listen to the song I think it's Distance because you just cry. You just cry all the dad cries.
Okay.
Um,
I
and
probably
it,
still
it's
will because
it, it,
I don't.
it's not
I come
necessarily
from a
about
long line of.
it's not necessarily
I,
about losing his dad because he wrote it beforehand, but it's about losing his dad. And if you watch the
okay.
video, oh my god, like just you'll be a fucking mess. I swear. Like
All right.
so.
I come from a
But
long
from
line of
one dad
criers.
from one dad to two others, like just prepare. If you need to be in your dad feelings for a minute, just pull up the Distance video from Mammoth, and you'll get it out.
Okay. Okay. I will listen to it. I mean, I know
Right?
I'm familiar with Van Halen. I'm familiar with Wolfgang. I'm much more familiar with when it comes to that family with the work
Yeah.
of Valerie Bertinelli on the Food Network. Um,
Well,
just to show where
Wolfgang, yeah,
my love lies.
Wolfgang's an
She has a
amazing
really
musician.
amazing
Yeah.
album out there too.
Does she?
No. But Wolfgang, he's a really amazing musician, and he's got a great voice. It's not like David Lee Roth type of voice. It's a great rock voice. So yeah, I think you'll dig it.
Awesome. I will check it out. I'll check it out.
All right.
Yeah, it's not that metal's not my thing. It's just that I don't know. I didn't listen to a lot of metal growing up.
You can't be as
But
cool as
I'll
us. I
listen to.
get it. It's fine, but
Yeah,
you can
I'm
try.
not.
You can try.
You know, I'll listen to anything. I will. You know, but yeah.
I always say hate the artist, not the genre.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just be open and you're going to find something in every genre that you wind up connecting with.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, I love listening to music. I think part of it's I'm not a big concert person. Like I've only ever been to like a handful of concerts, but I'll listen to anything anybody recommends. I'll put it on and check it out. I think I have like a fairly broad musical taste, you know? I like a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I've only ever been to like a handful of concerts and like whenever anyone goes through, what's the top 5 concerts you've been to? I'm like, I think I've only been
I've
to
been to like
10.
5.
But,
I'm not a
know,
huge
it's
concert guy myself either. I'm trying to rectify that. But, I was starting to try to go to more, and then we had kids, and that just went away for 8 or 9 years. And now I'm trying to
Yeah.
kick that back up and go again. We just saw like one of my favorite all-time bands last year, and then next year I already got tickets to see one of my current favorite bands. So
Who are
trend directed
they?
by the
You
Orbit
don't want
Culture.
to tell us your favorites?
Oh no, I saw Gojira and Spirit Box and Korn, but I was there for Gojira and Spirit Box last year. That was amazing. I love Gojira. They're like number 2 all time. Metallica's all time number 1 for me. They're just kind of like platinum status for me. So it's not even like I listen to them all the time because I just listened to them so much when I was younger. It's like there's there. Then everything else, they're, I probably put Black Sabbath up there too. But then there's Gojira, and then Orbit Culture. They've really risen to like one of my favorite bands. Like they're kind of like the angry teenage child of Gojira and Metallica. So they have the grooves. They have the clean singing voice is very 87, 88 era James Hetfield snarl kind of sound, and they got some pretty cool growls, and it's not too much of anything. And they usually every song has a bit where you just kind of want to, if you needed to lift a car off a child, you got it with one of those riffs. So,
This is what you put on.
yeah, exactly.
JM, how
It's your
about
own
you?
child, and I'm sure it's natural.
JM, how about you? I know you have the Dinosaur Jr. shirt on, and you've talked about some of the music that you're into, but is your musical taste like pretty broad?
Oh my God, yeah. My cousin would make fun of me for it. He'd go, "Oh, this is the JM music intro," and he goes, "Oh, it's a Peruvian ska band from the 1960s that only released the album in the Andes," and so that's like how he makes fun of me. I listen to everything, literally everything. I have a couple blind spots, a couple genres that I tend not to jump into. I'm not a huge like modern country and western guy, or pop country and western, I guess you would call it. But yeah, no, I listen to absolutely everything. I do find myself when I write so far, it's been to harder stuff because I've only written horror so far in comics. I think they sort of go hand in hand. I did write to the Carpenter's Christmas album for my only anthology piece before Horror Not Hate. I was part of Holiday Spirits Volume 3 from Orange Cone Productions, which is Travis Gibbs imprint. And
Oh yeah.
it was like a messed up Santa fairy tale that I wrote. So I wanted something schmaltzy and uplifting to tide me over. So yeah, I'll listen to the Carpenters and I'll listen to power violence music too.
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
All right. Well, thank you both for coming on the podcast tonight. I really appreciate you doing this, especially both of you being cool about, both of you coming on to talk about your projects. And like I said, I think there's kind of a lot in common here between not just the projects, but the music and having to do the marketing, especially for a crowdfunding project, is tough. So we're banding together to get the word out about Evie and the Helsings and Horror Not Hate. Is there anything else either of you wanted listeners to know before we go?
Personally,
Ye-
you could, if you're watching this, the day it drops, we've just launched our campaign. We'll be going for the next 28 days. But Horror Not Hate sounds amazing. So please go check that out because that's also, something I'm going to be doing on top of it. But yeah, we're just, thank you for listening. And please just, if you like, vampires, if you like rock music, if you like tough chicks kicking ass, if you like symbols being used as weapons against vampires, please check out Evie and the Helsings. We have a lot of fun. Steve and I have a lot of fun making the book. We put a lot of ourselves into the book. Is originally intended to be more of a comedic horror thing, but it became more than that just because of who Steve and I are. But we're really, really proud of the book. We're excited to be able to make more, and really thankful for everyone who's got us to this point. But the trade package looks amazing. I think the cover of the trade is the best work I've ever done. And I'm excited to just get it out there, get the book out there, because that's so much easier to get people a book. Here's the first issue or the second issue. So when you have that book, that first arc, that story, I'm so stoked to just be able to like get that out to people. And then so
Jan?
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Thanks, Don. Yeah, JM.
so I'm totally sold on Eevee, by the way. So I'm gonna be backing it as soon as it drops.
Shit.
That's totally up my alley. As far as what I wanted to say, I will say this about the charities. We're not allowed to say it on Kickstarter because it violates the policies. But every single penny above printing and fulfillment costs is going to these charities. So essentially, it's a full for charity project. Um, I had to say that we're just making equal donations, but I will be updating all the backers with the amount that we're able to raise for the two charities. Um, I would just encourage people to go to the project and support not just the project, but also all the contributors that spent all their time and energy with, working on the book, because they really went out on a limb. And honestly, if the wrong people see it or know about it, it's very easy that we could be ostracized, in one way, shape, or form. So it's not without risk for any of the contributors there, and I would like people to acknowledge that by supporting them or following them on social media at the very least. And you can find us at our bit.ly, which is bit.ly/horror not hate, where the H, the N, and the H of each word are capitalized. And yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have links in the show notes. So anyone, if you're listening to this, you can go there. And if you want to, you can click it on, go to the campaigns, follow Don and JM on social media. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I'm going to be checking and backing both projects. I've said before, I'm a big fan of Eevee and the Hellsings. I said it's a lot of fun. Like, it is a lot of action. I love the comic itself. I think it is funny. I think, there is a strong comedic element to it. I don't ever think it goes into like camp. It kind of like walks that line, but like there's, especially in the interplay with Eevee and when you meet Marcus, who is
Yeah.
kind of like a modern Frankenstein's monster kind of guy. There's definitely fun and a playfulness in terms of their relationship. Eevee has a kind of a very like a sarcastic kind of personality, and it especially with some of the folks in the Battle of the Bands, that really comes through. So there's a lot of different dynamics to it. And yeah, Horror Not Hate just sounds like an incredible project. There are so many folks involved in it that I'm just a huge fan of in indie comics, in comics in general. And I just think JM, his anger, or your anger and frustration has kind of spurred you on to do this. And I think you said at least 2 or 3 times without giving it too much thought. And now you found yourself putting together this huge project. And I think it's just awesome that you've taken all that on. I think it's incredible what you've put together, and I think folks should definitely check it out and support it. Anthologies are a great way to discover something new, not just in terms of a writer or an artist, but also a perspective. So I thank you both for coming on the podcast today, and have a happy New Year.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, James. Great meeting you. We'll definitely get in touch about getting you on the show at some point. If it's not soon, definitely sometime, because I think I feel we have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. Anytime.
And Jimmy, of course, it's always a blast to chat with you, whether here or on my show, or just, whenever, wherever. Now I'm talking like Shakira.
Thank you, Don.
Let's go. It's time for me to go to bed.
I really appreciate it. All right. For Comic Book Yeti, I'm Jimmy Gasparo. Rate, review us, do all those things they say to do for podcasts. It really does help. Share the podcast. And let me know if there's an episode that you really like. I'd love to hear what you liked about it, or a particular guest, or if you backed a project or picked up somebody's comic. Shout out to my brother Bobby, the Cryptid Creator Corner's #1 most dedicated fan. Bobby listens to all my episodes, and I always say hi to him. And he got me a really nice Christmas present. So thanks, Bobby. That's appreciated. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Good night.
This is Byron O'Neill, one of your hosts of the Cryptid Creator Corner, brought to you by Comic Book Yeti. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of our podcast. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. It lets us know how we're doing, and more importantly, how we can improve. Thanks for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Cryptid Creator Corner, maybe you would enjoy our sister podcast, Into the Comics Cave. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.